Dingoes. Presenting will be myself, Annelies, Isabella, Nicole and Ashley. Issues that will be discussed will be the definition of wildlife ecotourism, tourism numbers, management of wildlife, in particular the dingo, top order predator management, trophic cascades, ecotourism, island models. Sorry. The definition of wildlife tourism is that people can actually go onto an island or go over onto a zoo and actually see an animal that is in their natural habitat or in captivity. The basis of that is so that people can see them in their natural habitats, see their habits, see how they interact, and tourists can come away with having a deep appreciation of the animal themselves and respecting them a little bit more. And Fraser Island actually offers that. Fraser Island is one of our biggest draw card as far as tourism is concerned. People flock to see our whales. They flock to see the 230 bird species that we have on the island, and they also come over to see the dingo. The dingo is one of our biggest draw cards. It's featured in our brochures, it is featured in our flyers, various knickknacks, and it's just a multi-million-dollar business. But what does this mean to the dingo themselves? They're getting used to having people around them, they're getting cheeky, they're getting aggressive, they're taken from people, tourists are feeding them, they're used for photo opportunities, they're used to take photos of, they're being teased, they're being taunted, and they're becoming frustrated, they're becoming aggressive. They're having a hierarchical breakdown because of the culls that is happening with them. They're having a lack of fear of the actual humans themselves. Between the years 2001 and 2013, there's been a euthanasia of 110 dingoes that have been deemed as rogue or dangerous. The population size of them is now 100 to 150, which deems them unsuitable as far as their functional diversity is concerned. And it's been to the detriment of actually them being tourists being on the island, and as well as the sustainability of K'Gari Fraser Island. There have been different debates with regard to the management of Fraser Island. There are various studies that would prefer that the actual dingo is removed from the island altogether. There are those that would like to see the tourists removed from the island and perhaps protect the island itself from damage that is accumulated and ongoing. There's various studies that support the Bachala people, the original inhabitants of the island, to go back and have total control because it's lost its cultural significance, as well as various models that suggest that perhaps we should be basing our tourism on ecotourism management that have been used over in Penguin Island, Kapiti Island or Macquarie Island.
Fraser Island is a beautiful and favourite destination for tourists. However, the sudden influx of the rate at which tourists are visiting and staying is proving to be a problem for the local wildlife, especially the dingoes. The interaction between dingoes and humans has dramatically increased due to familiarisation between the two species. This has contributed to many negative interactions and encounters, some leading to injuries and in the worst case, death. According to a report by Glen Elms MP, 380,000 visitors are expected per year. If each tourist stays includes 4 nights, this approximate means there is 1,500,000 bed nights, and these numbers are expected to rise due to new revenues including the new P&O cruises, which will bring approximately 1,000 new visitors per visit. Full access to the entire island has caused interactions with dingoes inevitable. This has increased use of vehicles, which is approximately 15,000 to 17,000 a year. This has caused decreases in vegetation in the area, compaction of soil, beach erosion and pollution of water. Places of high human occupancy, for example, camping grounds, must have fines put into place to stop visitors, create an environment which invites dingoes to come and scavenge. The more familiar the dingoes are becoming to human resources, the more high risk they become. Dingoes do pose some danger when humans are exploiting many resources and encroaching on their natural environment. Many problems come from the way in which tourists are managed on the island. Fences have been implemented as barriers to keep dingoes away from certain areas on the island where human activity is greatest. However, this has met little support, as most people see the fences as limiting accessibility to certain places on the island, or it will not be effective enough to keep the dingoes out. This being said, dingoes are used as tourist attractions. Many people pose the view of the dingo being an authentic, naturalised species, which needs to be concerned. This is then juxtaposed against those who believe them to be an introduced pest or dangerous to humans. There are many controversial views in regards to tourists and dingoes, which makes the issue of coming to a conclusion and solution extremely difficult. The tourism industry will not stop completely due to the economic gain it provides the Queensland Government, which is around $222 million. Therefore, a balance needs to be created where both humans and dingoes can enjoy beautiful surroundings without causing each other harm.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to follow on from what Annelies and Bella said. I'm just going to discuss management and behaviour of the dingoes on Fraser Island. So, just some points is that dingoes are an introduced species to Australia, brought here over 5,000 years ago by European settlers. So they're considered a native icon to the country, but are actually also considered a pest in regards to land management. Fraser Island, which was actually listed as a World Heritage Site in 1992, harbours a small but genetically pure breed of dingoes, who have actually previously formed companionships with locals and have a deep history and relationship with the Indigenous communities of Australia. So tourists coming to the island relish in the opportunity to hand feed the native wildlife, but the negative impacts of this is actually commonly unknown. Some negative impacts is that it alters habits, health and their behaviour. Dingoes that are hand fed can actually later result in stealing food, which actually sometimes causes damage to property, to tourist property. Signs similar to these ones here are actually erected throughout the island outlining the importance of not feeding dingoes. Unfortunately, these are often disregarded. Feeding occurs predominantly at picnic and camp areas, the resorts, residential and urbanised areas, and also at the arrival boat points. So bait and unsecured provisions provide opportunistic dingoes with a quick source of food. Previously evolution has ensured that wild animals have a natural instinctive caution towards the presence of humans, and unfortunately this isn't the case anymore in Fraser Island. Animals have been able to learn through interactions that humans aren't to be feared anymore. This is from direct contact with the animals from humans, or indirect, as I said, from quick sources of food, from scavenging and food left around in bait. In 1993, several measures were taken by park management to ensure the safety of all tourists. So the refuge stations were closed, rubbish was transferred back to the mainland, and on-the-spot fines were issued to tourists for feeding the dingoes. Relocation has also been considered, but it is literally almost impossible. This is due to the territorial nature that dingoes have. Moving them to another area can result in the dingoes in that area killing the dingo coming in, or it could also result in that dingo moving back to the original site where it was picked up to be relocated from. So it just becomes a bit of a cycle. Over 400 individual instances have occurred on the island since the 1980s, and 76 of these reported incidents have between humans and dingoes are minor, such as loitering or stealing food. Some have then escalated into nipping and playing, but this is just often instigating play on behalf of the dingo or testing of dominance. This is similar to the interactions that humans have with the common domesticated dog. In 2001, there was a major incident resulting in the death of a child on Fraser Island where the child was attacked by 2 dingoes. Following this attack, over the 7 days after the attack, 28 dingoes were destroyed. This was in April of 2001. So that's where this graph comes in. You can see the major increase here where, when those animals were destroyed. So outside of national parks and zoos, it's actually the responsibility of landowners to ensure the control of these animals on the mainland. So despite actually being listed as a vulnerable species on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List, these animals actually have to be destroyed because they're considered as a pest outside of these areas. So changes have been implemented to reduce the amount of risk of interactions between humans and tourists on Fraser Island. These include such things as the recreational areas have been fenced off. There's been limitations on fish cleaning procedures, restrictions on food, storage containers have been provided to campers to keep their food in, and facilities have been upgraded, including barbecues fitted with proper lids. Lockers have been installed and dingo-proof bins have been added.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk about separation management. This is the dingo dog fence, and it was built in 1880 for the stop of the rabbit plague from southeast going up to Queensland. So then in 1900s they used it the farmers used it as a separation. It's one of, this one here, it's one of the longest fences in the world. It's twice as long as the Great Wall of China. Fun fact, it costs about $10 million a year to maintain that fence. That's not including baiting, aerial drops, trapping. Bradshaw suggests in his studies that this is not an effective management. And the scientific research that's been available is that where the dingoes are present, they actually have a herbivore management. They manage the kangaroos, the rabbits, the emus, and also the mesopredators, your foxes and your cats, which that's that trophic cascade which we learned yesterday. Excuse me. So this, I just want to bring this to your attention. This is the dog fence. If you have a look at the vegetation on this side and the vegetation on this side, so this is obviously a high traffic area for many animals, and this isn't. So this is obviously on the other side where the dingoes are. So there's less herbivores on this side, and less mesopredators. So this is the trophic cascade effect, which you will have learned. So the top end predator, which the dingo has been classified as, is sort of, it manages your cats, your foxes, your introduced species. So then if you have that effect, so cats and the mice and the rabbits and the herbivores. So having a top-end predator, which we don't actually have other than the dingo, we have mainly herbivores in this country. Having them around they're actually like regulators for that management. So the definition of a trophic cascade is when a predator in a food web suppresses the abundance or behaviour of their prey, thereby releasing the next lower trophic level from predation. There's been management models within the world, say in Mexico with their sharks, Finland with the lynxes and the fox and the effects on their hares. America was the coyotes, they took them out of Yellowstone Park. Then they had that knock-on effect where the herbivores increased, bears didn't come down. They have a lot of cats and they have a lot of bird depletion because they don't have that knock-on effect. So therefore, in Australia, we also have the dingoes, the foxes, the cats, and therefore the marsupials and bird life are all being affected by the fact that the mesopredators, which are cats, your foxes, are now being an introduced species, are taking over those things. So the human influence that we found is, this is a model and a graph. They did a study out in the desert in Tamari, which is like, they had 10 locations and they collected scat, and it's a mining town where they have a dump, they dump all their food waste, they don't bring it in and out like in Fraser. And what they found was, with their collection, they collected 1,900 scat and they broke it down, and what they were finding is that this is what they were consuming within their scat. So this is the rubbish that they were finding. They found things like foil, plastic, rubber bands in their scat, so therefore they obviously are utilising that. But predominantly they're after this because they have that traditional way of the high-end predator, high-end males and females are teaching those younger generations how to hunt. So therefore it is really, really important that we make sure that we keep that hierarchy like on Fraser. If you take away that high-end, the male and the female, the mating pair, then your teenagers seem to run wild, and therefore is that what's happening over there that's causing this? It's just an interesting model I found. So like on Fraser Island, dingoes near the camping and the resorts and stuff, they have a different dynamics to animals that are out in the desert sort of thing. They have a wider area to shop around for something to eat. But the human influence on Fraser Island has the potential to alter their trophic cascade. So the management of humans is what's a knock-on effect on Fraser. So we talk about some island models which are similar to Fraser. So they've taken a management of humans with that model. So Macquarie Island, just give you a quick rundown, it's a little island in the middle of nowhere. They used to use the seal industry was there. So what they did, they bought cats and rats and they bought rabbits. And it's cost the taxpayer $24.5 million to eradicate the last rabbit. Because what was happening, there's 400 million seabirds there, penguins, seals, so it was quite an important thing. Kapiti Island is in New Zealand. They have taken control, the native traditional people have taken over. They manage their human influence and their tradition. They still get their money. It's very similar to Fraser, and they still have that tourism, but they have a management of it. Penguin Island is in WA. They've also taken over their management of their people, their human and tourist influences, and all of these islands, when they had dramatic suppression of their native animals, having that management of humans, as now there's definitely an occurrence of, they're seeing a recorded occurrence of the native animals starting to increase. So they have that management. So, to reflect on what we put together is like, the Fraser Island dingo could be managed using similar island models as this. So there's still a tourism, there's a human model, there's so that would strengthen the success of human management. So that's what we believe would be the solution. Okay. So, yeah, I've got a question. Knowing that the dingo is an introduced topwater species, why is it such a controversial topic that they stay? So we'll make a vote. So is it because over 50,000 years does that classify you as a local? Or, so to speak, or is the fact that there is a hole in our trophic regulators as we don't have any topwater predators managed to manage the meso predators? Or is it the fact that there's educated versus traditional farming? So what do you think? Do you think it's because they're a local now? Yeah? Yeah? Or do you think it's because we don't have that, we need something to manage our foxes and our cats and that we brought in for hunting? Or do you think it's because you're being educated against that fear of farming? Yeah. Okay. You got a question?
Yeah, so I've got a question as well. This is a pretty broad one. We may not be able to even answer this. It may be a bit of a take-home thing to just think about. But considering that the dingo is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, Do you think it is acceptable that park rangers and individual landowners on private properties are still able to destroy these animals? So taking into account that there is a small number of purebred dingoes remaining, or do you think this is a necessary aspect of ensuring the future of this species and the various ecosystems that they play roles in? So it's just something to think about. If we can't answer it for them.
I have a question. Did you see any data about how many purebred dingoes, or what's the proportion of dingoes that still have greater than 50% natural?
The dingoes on Fraser Island are near on 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you put them back out into the population, you risk hybridisation, and the fact that the actual dingo is used to a different type of terrain. They're used to the sand. They would certainly suffer if they went out into the mainstream population.
Yeah. What about on the mainland? Do you know anything about what proportion of those dogs are still?
They're
Pockets.
Pockets. Yeah.
pockets of them. The Brad Purcell did a 10-year study on the dingoes around the Blue Mountains, and they're near on pure. But most of our dingoes, especially up in the Gympie and the Mullaney Way and other areas, have got a lot of domestic dogs within their genes.
Brad Purcell's study, like his study was stating that what we commonly look at as a dingo, that little yellow dog, he was finding different hair samples, and they still had a pure blood, they still had quite high blood, model being a pure animal, but they were different coated. They had different quality of coat, obviously for different areas, but they had different colouring. So I know myself for years, you'd go, oh, that's an inbred, it's got an Alsatian or something in it. But he was saying with the samples that he was finding that they're not. They're just specialised for that pocket. There was ones that had white and brown and orange and black, and it's like that just looks like someone's dog running around. But yeah, they had a quite high percentage.
Is there anything included in, say, a management plan to do with how much purebred dingo there is in a dog before it's considered to be a dingo? So what is the point of crossover? So are we culling a dingo here, or are we culling a wild dog?
On Fraser Island, you're near on culling the dingoes, but also bear in mind too that the dingoes aren't only being culled, but they're also being run over as well. So you're really depleting an animal that's neither considered a wolf nor a dog, their own species, and they're very, very unique and have been. There's been various studies with regard to their DNA, and they do not have the ability to digest starch. And the only other dog that is like that, if you could call it a dog, is the New Guinea singing dog over in New Guinea. They have the same gene as well, where they can't digest starch. And interestingly enough, Nicole studied the other day there too, that the Aboriginals cannot digest starch either. So, yeah.
All right. Well done, guys. Thank you.